What's up, guys? We are back again. Episode 5. Hail to the King, baby. 70-year retrospective of all the films of Godzilla and 2 TV shows. And I might watch the animated series just because Trevor told me. We're getting into a lot of stuff. I am so enthralled with all things Godzilla right now. I'm watching these movies. I'm having an amazing time. I actually urge people to maybe go and do this. You don't have to do it for a podcast. You don't do it for any of that stuff. But I do urge people to watch these movies. There's merit in every one of them. Every single one of them. I have not found one that I don't think should exist. I'm so happy with it. I'm so happy what they do in the different eras. And we are going to go. We're going to talk about it in depth over the next bunch of weeks. So make sure you're joining in. So you got to hit like, you got to hit subscribe, and you got to hit that bell so you know when this episode and other great episodes come out as well. But of course, my guys are here. They're awesome. The Kaiju Snob, Trevor Stottlemyer from Bastard Radio and Media. Sir Sturdy himself from Horror with Sir Sturdy and Popcorn and Pints. We are loving talking about Godzilla and all things, Kaiju and the whole 9 yards. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to bring them on. We're going to talk about it. So let's start. All right, guys. So welcome to the show, Trevor and Sturdy. We are talking about Godzilla versus Gigan from 1972. We are talking about Godzilla versus Megalon from 1973. And we are talking about Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, the first time, 1974. We're going to have a great time. We're going to get into this and more. So join us as we talk about Godzilla. What's up, gentlemen?
I'm just happy to be here.
We're always happy to have you.
That's what's
up. How's it going, guys? Great to see you again.
How are the
Good to see you, sir.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Actually, let me pause that for 5 seconds. I jumped on it too fast. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
And I'll pick it right up from there. Sturdy, that's great to hear, man. So, guys, real quick before I actually get started, why don't you tell us a little bit more? It's episode 5, whoever may be joining in and maybe not have seen the others. Tell us about your channel. Sturdy, I'm going to start with you. And then, Trevor, please, take it from there.
Well, first, I'm going to start off with Popcorn and Pints because we are doing that. Well, we did it last night because I know it comes out on Sunday. So we did this last night. Saturday night, go tune in and check that out. That was a fun freaking episode. Oh, my gosh, the laughs. I can't believe I said the shit I said in that episode, man. Go tune in. And, check out Horror with Sir Sturdy. As a matter of fact, go check out last Thursday's episode. Trevor came on there, and we talked Infinity Pool. And
it was awesome. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Like, I asked Mick. I messaged Mick this morning. I said, Mick, thank you for introducing me to Trevor. This dude is fucking awesome. Like, it's just so cool that you have so many different conversations with different people in different walks of life. And not even that I would judge him by his looks, but judging by all of our looks, you wouldn't even think us three would even be having a conversation together at all. And we fucking love a lot of the same stuff. And that's what you got to kind of get into, people. Get into your inner geekdom and express it because it's beautiful. Look at this.
I've been very lucky to have a lot of geeks surround my geekdom and vice versa over my years. And that has brought some of the closest friendships of my life. So geek is good.
Absolutely.
Great. And it's in everything. Listen to your music. Listen to it really close.
Yeah, you've been doing that. You've been exploring that a little bit. And actually, because Trevor's here, I want to touch down on that. So Sturdy over on his channel is for the whole year going to pick song titles for his to title each one of his podcasts that associate from a hip hop song. And every month,
awesome.
And this month, January he did Wu-Tang. This month you're doing Heavy D. And every month, like his friends could pick a birthday month or pick a month to do something, or Sturdy's filling it in. And I got to tell you, as you've been going on each week, it's been so exciting to see how you correlate them and also big up the music too. I love that.
Because I feel like they're both just as important. One is just as important as the other because music and movies can unite so many freaking people just from either loving the song or movie or hating them both, being the group that hates them for whatever reason, but you're still uniting something and having a fun conversation about this. Because I can mention Blood Lake. I know a bunch of people that fucking hate that movie, and we'll have a great fun conversation about it. And then I can mention a movie like Infinity Pool. I know Trevor loves it. So, and I know there's other people out there that really enjoy that kind of film, and it's just so beautiful. So open up, people. Open up with the music. Open up with the movies. That's what I'm trying to do with this. Trying to get people to kind of open up your mind. Myself too, because next year is not going to be all hip hop. Next year is going to be any genre. And I'll let you guys pick. The only month I'm picking is October and November, and my wife is getting May. The rest are you guys.
I love it.
It's fair, right? November is my birthday. October is a part of Third Halloween.
Sturdy, are there any months that you haven't picked yet?
I can pull up my list right now and check. I do not remember.
I'll tell you. I think you have a guy right here from, he's an ambassador of sorts when it comes to music and media. And I feel like, it's a perfect person to maybe ask for some referral.
I am unfortunately full for the month, but Trevor, January is yours for 2025.
Okay.
Just because like everything's filled in, I don't want to just take somebody else. Yeah, what the fuck? Like you gave this to me.
Well, thank you. I just
You're kicking the
haven't.
year
Thank
off,
you.
and you don't have to do it right away. Just I'll give you time to think about it, and it's any genre. It'll be that artist month, so that artist their songs will tie in to the episode titles for Horror with 630.
Fleetwood Mac. I'm all for it.
I love the Tusk album.
There's some music I like of Fleetwood, but yeah, I get it. My wife hates him though, so I'm not allowed to listen to him too high.
I was about to say, if you listen, you're like, listen, honey, I'm doing it for content. I'm going on Sturdy's show, and one request is to listen to the song, before you come on the episode, so you can kind of maybe mix the song in with the movie somehow. Maybe.
No, that's a great point. Well, guys. We are talking Godzilla, and I want to ask, how are the rewatches going right?
So for me, the first time watchers they're fun. Like these three, I had so much fun with, and it actually brought me to my childhood. But I was thinking of, which I told you guys in group chat, Power Rangers and VR Troopers.
Yes.
Because of the way the setting is, the way the movements are, the way that like the kaijus are in this, and I was thinking of I'm just talking about the movie, just kind of mixing it, answering the question. But the Green Ranger, Tommy's dragon, that dragon comes out, Dragon Zord comes out, and it looks very similar to the Godzilla version. I forgot what the name of it is. They're all mega something, but it was the last one, and it looks very like the Dragon Zord looks very similar to it. Of course, not the
Mechagodzilla.
But yeah, like the Mechagodzilla and the Dragon Zord, there's some similarities with it. And then with what the heck was his name? The robot looking guy. What was his name again?
Mechagodzilla.
Kamen Rider?
No,
what are you talking about?
Gigan. Gigan had the visor, and he had like the hook. Yeah. He did too. He looked like one.
He looked very more similar to a VR Trooper than like a Power Ranger thing, but he looked like something that could be in Power Rangers, which they're all around the same time. And that kind of made me more comfortable with it and kind of enjoy it and get excited more about it, because I loved the damn Power Rangers as a child. So it's cool how they went back. I know they were both Japanese. I know how they did, the way that they did it and all that, like reading on it and all that kind of stuff. Don't know how to explain it, so I'm not even going to try to. But Google it and you'll figure it out. Trevor knows what I'm talking about. Mick knows what I'm talking about. But like the way they have it with the stop motion and just kind of stuff like that, and it's basically the same thing. You just put different things in there, I guess. But I enjoy it.
Well, I want to ask you, Trevor, to what Sturdy's saying. How much would you say that the Godzilla films in general, or maybe Kaiju films, really inspired all of those? Because Jet Jaguar looks like he should be out of his own Power Ranger show.
It actually is a pretty super simple equation. Eiji Tsuburaya, who was the legend of Japanese special effects, created Tsuburaya Productions. That's why he kind of separated himself from the Godzilla movies. And the Tsuburaya Productions made Ultra Q, Ultraman, everything Ultra. This was about 1966. And this is what, if I'm right, 1966, the Godzilla film stopped making a lot of money because Ultraman and Hiroyega was hot. And of course, as we talk about these three films, we're going to talk a lot about the parallels in Hiroyega to what eventually became the Super Sentai of 1975. So all kind of weird stuff.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. I didn't realize. I love when we connect those dots. Well, I don't know if you connect those dots, but I love when you do it and I get to hear it. And it's good information. Like I would never thought of that, because when I saw, well, actually, let's just start with Godzilla versus Gigan first, because we don't even see Jet Jaguar. But you're right, Sturdy. Gigan, I see that. I see he looks like a monster you might see show up in like a Power Ranger or something very similar, more high tech than before, especially the Smog Monster. That's a big step up.
Yeah.
Let me start by going around. What did you guys all think about this movie? And Trevor, I'd love to hear from you first.
It's not one of my favorite. Jun Fukuda was back at directing. This was a situation where, yet again, they had virtually no budget, and this is a film that's made up of a lot of pre-existing footage from early Godzilla films, and also films like War of the Gargantuous and other kaiju films. Gigan's cool. I love Gigan. It is a fun movie, but watching it again, it really is a cheap. Like, if you notice when King Ghidorah and Gigan first attack, there's two things. Okay, so when they fly around the monster land, which we'll talk about later, versus when they stand beside it, the perspective is horrible. But then go to them attacking the city. And unlike other Godzillas of the past, they're all tight shots. It's like, here, boom. So we have to actually make less because we're doing all these tight shots. So kind of a cheapie, but good fun.
I did have a lot of fun. I liked the Monsterland vibe to it. I like that he was a manga artist, the main character in it, and like he, him and his, I call them, what are they? They're like a merry band of hippies getting together to try and yeah, and I loved it. But Sturdy, what about you,
Mamagon, the monster of mothers. Mamagon.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mothers. Again, I had fun with this one. Like I had these three. I had a lot of fun. Like these seemed like they weren't. I can see that they were still steering in the direction of kids, but they weren't making it too kiddie, in my opinion. Yeah. So that I enjoyed. I was like, all right, the last few were just a little too kiddie. I know they had the one kid in it and all that, but it didn't bother me that much. It was fine. But this one just had like it just made me think of Power Rangers, just with different things, just with different beings in it. So I'm like, I get this one. I get like I'm following along. You know what I mean? It just brought me back to that moment of watching this as kids, and it's cool to think of how inspirational this franchise is, not only to music like we discussed before and hip hop, but also other film and shows. And even diving into like a kid, like, cause like this was, I mean, like I said, this wasn't like kiddie, but like diving into like a kid show and a real popular kid show at that, like the way Power Rangers looked and all that. If you look back at that and then like the '90s show of that, and you're like watching like kids now, like you really watch that, and it's like and we used to watch Godzilla too. Like look at this, it's the same.
I loved the Monsterland aspect of it because I knew as soon as you saw that giant Godzilla building, that's getting torn down. I was like, the second I saw it, I'm like, the king's coming. He's gonna take this out. So it was fun. It felt like it took all of the kiddie or childish things that we saw in some of the previous, and it was almost like a testament to that. To like Godzilla's now become like almost like an Adventureland or Six Flags or something. And it's like it was like a careful reminder of like he's still Godzilla. He's not gonna. And I dug that. It almost felt. This one compared to the last few, not an FU or anything to them, but kind of like we're going to get back to it. We're going to get not reality, but we're going to get back to what we're here to do. And I kind of dug that. Now, again, I would say that this was a good step forward, but they don't really get there till the next era. But that's just me. We'll get there in those episodes.
Can I pose a quick question? I hate to interrupt you, but speaking of that idea of balancing kiddie and adult, what were you guys' feelings about the speech bubbles between Anguillus and Godzilla?
It was weird. I dug it though. I don't know why I liked it.
It kind of harked me back a little bit to Smog Monster.
It did. I like the animation of Smog Monster though, so I think that's why I don't mind when, especially franchises like this, take swings at stuff and try something new. Like, and that's why I think Marvel's problem. Personally, like right now, like I feel like they in the beginning they took swings for things, really trying to do and make something different. Now it just feels like fan service. Like these Godzilla films feel like that one didn't work. It's not doing too well. Let's change it up.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a cool like, sort of vibe to go with when you're watching a franchise.
I guess just to shoot Marvel a little bit of bail, not that I'm like a humongous fan, but all the money they made and all the success they had, you can kind of understand why they kept that route. But at the same time, it's like the reason why you did that is because of all those chances you took and all those risks you took. And now you're getting at that comfortable level again, back on that, BS like Daredevil and all that people didn't like. You get too comfortable, which I enjoyed Daredevil, don't get me wrong. But overall, a lot of people didn't like it. You're getting too comfortable to that again, and it's not good. I like how you're saying that with Godzilla. They're just like, all right. I mean, they're 40 years, and they're still putting stuff out. 70 years. Sorry, 70 years.
I attribute things like this, things like Star Trek, things like Star Wars is tough. Star Wars is tough to throw in there. They're still going, but it's not easy. It's not easy. But like Star Trek, like even the bad things in Star Trek never took. They course corrected. Like that. Like Picard season 2 is better than 1, but still sucks. But 3 is probably the best season of Star Trek I've ever seen. It could be a movie. Like so. And I attribute that to like what they do with Godzilla. And what I'm seeing as I go through, I'm like, they had no problem really revisiting things or even flat out remaking their own formula, but doing it better and improving. I really like that. And I do see what you're saying after I'm gonna get this right. Is it Ishihiro Honda?
Ishiro Honda.
Ishiro Honda. Yeah.
Actually, the N isn't in there, but a lot of places throw an N in.
Hoda? Hana?
Ishiro Honda.
Ishiro Honda?
By the end, I will get it.
Like Honda. Yeah, it's like a car.
Ishiro Honda.
I like it. So I definitely see after he left, sort of, it had its issues, but I do like where they readjusted in these movies. Even the course of these, it almost felt like it went from all right, we have the original, which some of the originals, which are great films, or Godzilla Raids Again. But then when you got to the verses in the '60s, they were fun, they were different, they were weird. Like you could definitely tell there's some boxing influence there and stuff like that. This one feels almost like, all right, Godzilla really needs to earn it back. So we're going to put him through the ringer, and he's got to fight, and he's going to keep fighting. And I love what they're doing. So like, Gigan wasn't one of my favorites out of these 3 specifically. Wouldn't mind seeing him pop up again. That might be kind of cool. But it was. I felt like it was. You're right. It went to a fun place. Like I actually think you needed that, but with more grown-ups and such, rather than just have the kids running.
I have to agree 100% with you there, because this was a film that, on top of having the small budget, the small crew, the necessity to use previously existing footage, Shinichi Sekizawa, who was a continual writer pretty much for these, was a very creative guy. So when this became, we have so little, we've got to get super creative. That's kind of where this little era fits in.
Yeah, and I think the '70s to me went out strong, and that was a good end for that era. Because and I don't want to give up too much, but when we get back to it in the '80s, it hits a stride. It opens it up and hits a stride that takes it to a different place. So like, I still feel like all these films in the Showa era are very respect once you get to the new era. But it's just, I see the specialness of them. They're not my favorite of Godzilla, but I see the specialness of them, and I'm so glad so many of them exist. 15 movies for one era. Like, as we're coming to an end there, and like next week's episode will be at the official end, Terror of Mechagodzilla, but these 3 right here might be, besides the first one, my favorite watch so far.
Ooh.
Back to back.
Cool.
Oh, back to back to back.
Oh, and I'm not counting anything after this. But so far, with where everything's at, where we're watching and such, and we're talking about, yes. Because I even kind of like Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla more than Terror of Mecha. I'll say my thing about that, but I do like these 3. I think they set a tone for Godzilla going forward. Trevor, so we've kind of touched on it, but I'm sorry. I want to know what you feel about this film. What's your review?
Well, I don't want to be a downer about this film, because I do enjoy it and I loved it as a kid. But I will say that one of the really groovy things about these 3 films is you see Jun Fukada and his crew really working together to, produce our 3rd film tonight, which to me is the best of the Jun Fukada Godzilla films, flat out. It's awesome.
So I get that, and I definitely agree, especially, and I don't know where you are with this, Sturdy, but kind of, any last thoughts on Godzilla vs. Gigan as we move on? Like, is there anything you would like to maybe like to have seen differently? Maybe other heroes and villains as a part of it?
No, not necessarily. I had a really good time. It was a fun time, and you kind of got what you wanted from it. And again, I like that it got away from like the super kiddiness and kind of not that it's super serious, but that it just kind of got away from that and kind, you know what I mean. It made it feel it made it more watchable for me. I'll say that compared to the last couple.
Listen, you're never gonna love characters like you love Mickey Sagusa. Don't worry, we'll get there. I love Trevor's face whenever I say something like that because he just shows this so well. I love it. Let's move on to Godzilla versus Megalon, who also is the introduction to Jet Jaguar. Now, I don't know much about Jet Jaguar from other than what I read in preparation for this. Before we get started, I would love if you could give us a little bit of a background, Trevor, if you know any more about it.
Specifically to Jet Jaguar?
About this movie and Jet Jaguar.
About the movie? Okay. Well, we've touched upon it. Number one, adding Jet Jaguar to the mix was a complete reaction to Ultraman, eventually Kamen Rider, which was also very popular, and all these Hiro Eiga television shows. Which another thing you have to point out, these television shows is each show you have, excuse me, sorry about that. You have like two or three really wacky monsters fighting your main person every episode. So at the time, people were seeing so many more monsters on TV. Jun Fukada and everybody was like, well, we have to up our game with some different kind of monsters. And this film features two different. Now, Jet Jaguar, which is, there's a point in the film in which Jet Jaguar goes from being this guy's invention that is human-sized, and he becomes the size of a kaiju. There's no explanation. Ultraman does that, so Jet Jaguar does. End of story. And then you have Megalon, which is one of the weirdest, crazy costume designs ever. The killer, bizarre beetle from hell. Yet again, it's a whole bunch of footage from older films. The Seatopians, and it's kind of the typical plot, but it's fun. It is an amazing amount of fun.
Yeah, the team ups, like it also feels like there's a lot of wrestling on these.
Yeah,
Japan is huge for wrestling, so I do kind of like it. What do you think about that story? Because you're kind of in wrestling too. How do you feel about that? Like
that's another thing, and I didn't even think of that till you just mentioned it. You do definitely get that vibe with these all three of these films.
I would even
wrestling
say
and Power Rangers.
Yeah, yeah. I would even say more in this one, Godzilla versus Megalon. Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah,
tag team more like you got the characters coming out. Godzilla, of course, is the draw. But now we got Jet Jaguar here, and he's like Ultraman, and he's pretty cool. And Gigan's back. You kind of dug him from the last one, right? But he sucks, so let's get rid of him and bring in a beetle. It's all over the place, but I just, it works. I don't know what it is about Godzilla. It just works so well. How do you feel about with Gigan and his, upgrades, I guess, and then you have Megalon has the same sort of upgrades, in general, like certain weaponry infused with his body. How do you feel about that element of almost technology and kaiju coming together? Because we're going to see it in a big one in the next movie.
I like it. It doesn't bother me. I like it. It's fun. And I think just because of, I don't know, I'm starting to expect the unexpected with these movies, which I probably should have done that from the first one because it's a big ass lizard. But
that's very
it's just one of the things where I'm like, all right, I got to open my mind to just some crazy shit with Godzilla. Since the spaceships, I've been opening my mind more, and yeah, I'm trying. But I did really like this one a lot, actually. This one, all three of them.
Yeah, I like this one a lot too. This one, I like the Jet Jaguar. I actually kind of makes me want to go back and watch more. Is there more with that character? Did they add him more into things? This was it?
He might make an appearance in Final Wars, but I forget.
Wow. Yeah.
That would be the only place he would possibly pop up.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too.
Bring Jet Jaguar back. Bring him back.
Bring him back.
Basically, be an Iron Man nowadays, though, right?
I know. I had such a great time with this one, and it was almost like that tag team. Let's do it again, and it went bigger with it. It was fun. But then, of course, we're getting into the final movie in for tonight's episode, which I think was the big one. Was the one where they really built this up to. Godzilla had to go through a lot of hell, and we finally get Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, which is, I mean, that's probably the most Japanese thing there is.
Yeah.
When you say that it's a mech versus a kaiju, it's just is what it is. They're famous for it. But could you, Trevor, if I could impose upon you, maybe do you have any insights or maybe backstory on the film to let us know?
Well, first thing is I'm going to take it back to one of your questions before was, why does Gigan and why does, Megalon, have these, mechanical weapons? And, well, Gigan's from space, so it can do whatever they damn well want. But is something in Japan that from, as early as the 1920s, mecha, or the idea of robot technology, has been a huge thing. So it was already there like, okay, let's experiment with this beetle for Megalon, but let's give him mecha qualities. And, so we go into what I think is the best of these three films, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Jun Fukada and his crew and everything have finally figured it out that they have to make a movie that is tight and fast-paced and all about action and short. And it works the best of his films. I also think it's the most adult one in a while. Personally.
I agree. These I would even argue that all three of these were a lot more gory than previous incarnations, but especially this one. For sure. Like, I definitely, the adult theme of this is there. You're right. This is an action film. This isn't one like your kids could watch it because it's from 1975. I feel like there's a threshold. You're kind of good. This one.
The insect. Most interesting man in space Asia drinking brandy nonstop,
That's very fair. So, Sturdy, let's start with your review. What did you think of this movie going into it? And I know you've correlated the
Power Rangers,
the Dragonzord.
Yes, Dragonzord.
It's been a long time since I've had a chance to go back to Power Rangers, but and I see it too. Though there's definitely, I think Mechagodzilla definitely inspired a lot of fun designs in other places. Why do you think they decided to go with a Mechagodzilla in this, and not maybe make a mecha version of one of his original or some of his other villains?
Honestly, I think just because of the popularity of Godzilla at the time, and even now still, it's almost like you have the number one kaiju that everyone loves. Why not make him a robot without getting rid of him though, without replacing him? Why not make a robot version of Godzilla? I should say.
And you still have you can fight.
You still have the regular one. You still have the regular Godzilla there. That's my guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, this is an economically based great film for that whole crew. I mean, even the soundtrack is the best of the non-Ikofube soundtracks, in my opinion. So, okay, one of the things that I truly love about Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla is so it makes sense in a story to, let's try to surprise the audience, but the Mechagodzilla actually makes the idea of the space creatures make sense with the spaceman plot. So it's just a better written script than the other two, because that's wild. You start a film out, even though it's called Mechagodzilla, with Godzilla destroying everything again, and he has to face himself, and that's just awesome.
How did you feel about the King Caesar element?
I love it.
So if you could elaborate a little bit more on it, and what did you think of it too, Sturdy? I want to talk about King Caesar a little bit. He's another ancient Kaiju figure that comes into the fold to play. Sturdy, first, what did you think about King Caesar being brought in?
I thought that was interesting. I thought that was very interesting the way they brought him in and all that. And then I'm just like, damn, this inspired so many more movies. I couldn't think of any, still can't at the time, but I'm like, wow, this is
Yeah,
this
I
is
gotta.
this like
Oh, sorry.
these movies from watching these movies, these three especially, just because from the things we've been mentioning, things I've been pointing out and all that, they're really important. They're really important. I really feel like filmmakers should check these out. Even if you watch, I'll say from what we've gotten so far, I'll say these three right here, just because there's so many things you can pull from it. Not to take their ideas, but just to kind of pull from it. And basically, one thing is saying, I mean, what I've learned from this is do your own work, do your own thing, kind of take risks.
Budget filmmaking.
Yeah.
Boom,
Yeah.
all that. And you wouldn't even think you would get something like that from a Godzilla film. You're just thinking you're getting a bunch of creatures fighting each other and, buildings getting knocked over. I'm like, no, you're getting a hell of a lot more than that. I didn't even realize that till shit now. But it's
Well,
I love
they
it.
definitely. And the reason I want to bring up King Caesar is because he does come back. You will see him in the future, not for a while, but you will see him in the future. I know that. So it's kind of cool to see the original iteration of it. I don't know what you guys felt, but I kind of felt like having King Caesar there, this ancient being, having Godzilla, which is not old. I mean, he's been around about 15 years by this point. But Mechagodzilla was a representation of the future, clearly. So I would put Godzilla as representation of the past. I really dug how they married all those versions of Japan into this sort of fight. It was like very symbolic of it.
It really was.
This is a very creative film. The previous two were creative, but this was so much works in this film in ways we haven't experienced for several Godzillas back. And, King Caesar, I love King Caesar. Now, there are those Mothra-esque connections, like you do know exactly he's this ancient being that, I think closest descendant has to sing to a mountain, kind of Mothra-esque. But where King Caesar is super awesome for me is he actually is a reference to what you call yokai, or the Japanese ghost. And Japanese ghost are all through the beginning of Japanese mythology. So he kind of looks like a dog. He kind of looks like all these things. And that's where I think yokai definitely was an inspiration for that, which yet again, Mick, as you said, it's bringing the old and the new. So you have so what do we have going on here? We're going to have a representation of old school Japanese horror, and then we're going to have Mechagodzilla, which is the new technological terror of Godzilla.
Yeah. And now, for that, we can kind of give up on the ending on a movie that's almost 50 years old. Actually, is 50 years old this year. But it felt to me at the end, and I would love to hear you guys think, when Godzilla and King Caesar finally go to take down Mechagodzilla. And the reason I'm so adamant about this, because this is the first one you feel for a long time that really was driving its message home in, like you said, a clever way. And like it was a really well written. They're hitting you over the head with the smog monster in the door. But, I really dug that. It felt like at the end of it, they take apart Mechagodzilla, but he's not gone. Like, he's not gone. He's coming back. We know it. But it felt to me like if that was it, they wanted to say, like, the past and the present can come together and take on the future. I didn't get the future and completely be done with it, but I loved that aspect of this story exist, if that makes sense. The nuclear bomb thing was great, but in the 70s, that really felt it felt good to see and hear that. But what are some of your final thoughts on this movie? Like overall, like how'd you guys like it? And is this one that you'd revisit again?
For me, I don't know if I'd revisit it again. If this is definitely one, if it was on, say if it was just randomly on for whatever reason, I'd probably just let it play in the background type of deal. But I don't think I'd revisit it again. But I had a good time with it. I had a really good time with it. And again, I do feel like all three. If you want to pick one of the three, I'd say watch this one right here and watch this one right here and learn from it. If you want to get into filmmaking and all that, learn from it.
How about you, Trevor? I know how much you feel about these films, but what do you think? To you, how influential was Mechagodzilla, first of all, in the legacy of Godzilla? I mean, we did see him.
He made money. The movie did make some money. Yeah. But actually, what I'm going to say is I'm going to hark this back to something that you pointed out in the intro, and that's the idea of if you happen to have the time and you like Godzilla. How about if you try watching all the Godzillas at your own leisure, but consecutively? and the 6 Inashita Honda films and all the crews and everything, I'm going to go out on a ledge and say something that very few people have ever said. Hiroshita Honda is an auteur. So when you watch those films, they're thematically connected. And as I said before, we've always digested Godzilla in like, well, this is on now, or this is on now, or this is my favorite monster, or whatever. But, then if you keep going, you see the good, the bad, the ugly, and then you get to the Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, this perfectly paced, almost all original film, no like fill-ins of old movies, that is creative. And I was watching it with Cindy, and we both got to the end of it, and like, that was short.
Mhm.
And it felt that way because it's just paced beautifully.
I will say, from here on out, I definitely see the pacing of the movies become a lot more action-packed and more in-depth. Like, it doesn't feel like, hey, we have the story going on, and then Godzilla will show up and fight somebody, and that's how it all ends. It kind of ties in. Going forward, like, I did feel like this was just crafted. Like, that's it. Like, But I appreciate all the insights, both of you guys, and watching these along with me and taking the journey to do this. I'm having a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, this is awesome. Thank you, Mick, so much. And Sturt.
You guys are amazing. You guys are awesome. All of you guys watching, being a part of it. This has just been a great time. If you're not watching Godzilla with us, you should sit down and watch all 40 films.
You should
take your time, watch them consecutively. You can watch one of these every other week, and you'd be fine. Like, you could, it's not hard. You can get through it. Like, I know 40 films feels like it's inundating sometimes, but it's a fun one. This is a great franchise. It really is.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
I love it. But next week we are going to be talking about Godzilla versus. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm on the wrong one.
it's all good. It's all good.
Next week, we're going to be talking about Terror of Mechagodzilla from 1975. We're going to try and watch The Return of Godzilla from 1984. That is out of print, so probably it will be only Trevor talking about that one. I've been trying to find it. We are also going to talk about Godzilla 1985, which honestly is one of my favorites, and I'll get into that. But and we're going to talk about Godzilla versus Biollante. It's a very weird movie, but it has a lot of elements, and it goes crazy, and it is a great character that you're going to soon see going into the 90s. And we have Greg Matson's going to be joining us. You've seen him over on Horror Search 30. He's going to be joining in and talk about it. Those are some of his favorites. So make sure to join in. It's going to be during the day, like the morning. I'm going to be putting that out on Super Bowl Sunday. So you got plenty of time to watch the game. Just make sure you watch this first.
There you go.
But
And you're rooting for the 49ers.
Yeah, that's for sure. Before we take off, I want to go around the horn one more time. Tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow you, and guys, make sure you're doing it. It's in the description below. It's very easy.
Yes, sir. So Popcorn and Pints again. We're doing Star Trek, Star Wars. Another fun versus thing I'm doing, and we're doing, and another 2 franchises. You can follow along with those. You might as well. And that's going to be at 9:00 Eastern time every Saturday. And then Horror Search 30, you get that every Tuesday and Thursday at 8:00 Eastern time. And Sturdovision, under the Horror 30 umbrella, you get that every Friday at midnight as well. And just, you're going to see some weird shit on there, so tune in for it.
Well, my name's Trevor. You can find out more about what I do at ambassadorradio.org. Ambassador Radio and Ambassador Media is mostly a radio show that looks at the B-side of music history, and sometimes it's thematic, sometimes it's just all over the place. You'll hear Zam rock, which was like garage rock from the 1970s from Zambia, beside like, archival blues recordings and everything in between. We're also going to be expanding even further on our website, ambassadorradio.org, with more content, film reviews, etc., etc. So that is coming at some point, and that's what it is. So thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not checking these guys out, I don't know what to tell you. You are hidden off in under some rock somewhere. Get out there. Go check them out. They're so smart. I cannot wait to see some more film reviews from you. I am so excited. I see them from him all the time. He's good. I know where he comes from, and I love it. But Trevor, I only get to talk movies with you, so see some movie reviews. Plus, I get to see Infinity Pool. You make sure you can go check out the video now over on Search 30's YouTube
man,
channel.
what a conversation we had.
I'm gonna.
Well, thank you again, Sturdy. That was amazing. Thank you for
Oh,
humoring me.
I had
Thank you.
oh my gosh, I can't wait to have you on again, man. I can't wait to have you on again.
Cool.
Let him pick a movie
Thank you.
so that way I can come on too and watch something. Like I just couldn't do it last night. I do. We have a good time, and this is so much fun, and I'm having a great time. I get to geek out with my friends and talk about Godzilla. So all hail to the king, everybody. Thank you so much for checking out the Scene Snobs. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell so more episodes of this are coming out as well. And we have tons of other stuff. So let's have some fun. I'm not going to inundate you. I'm going to say thank you to my guest panelists for jumping in here and talk about this awesome kaiju with me. And I'm going to tell you guys, I hope you be kind to everybody. Stay classy and take care of yourselves because that's important. Good night.
Peace.